Okay, let's unpack this. We often talk about, the allure of going viral, that sort of quick hit of online fame. But what happens when that desire, that need for validation, for clicks and likes, twists into something, well, something much darker, something that just completely blurs the line between, like, a digital fantasy and actual brutal reality? Today, we're doing a deep dive into a story that really forces us to look at the dark side of our connected world. This is the chilling case of Aaron Reyes, a name now tragically linked to the term the TikTok killer, and the devastating fate of his victim, Naomi Wells.
What's really critical here, I think, is how our source material, especially these detailed excerpts from The TikTok Killer, Fame's Fatal Obsession, lets us dissect the really granular, unsettling details of how this happened. This isn't just about recounting a terrible crime. Our mission in this deep dive is to pull out not just the what happened, but the really profound why, and maybe even more importantly, the insidious how. We're searching for those critical nuggets of insight within these tragic events, because it's right there in the tiny details that you find the roadmap of how this obsession just spiraled completely out of control.
Indeed. And to really get the gravity of this, we have to go back, right? We need to peel back the layers and understand Aaron Reyes before he was the TikTok killer. He started out, apparently, just like so many others. 25 years old, aspiring content creator. You can almost picture it. Small town guy, maybe a ring light in his bedroom, chasing that dream of online recognition.
Yeah, exactly. And his early stuff, the sources say it was incredibly generic. We're talking, the
Yeah.
trending dances everyone was doing, the renegade, the savage dance, those kinds of things. Things you see everywhere. He also tried awkward comedy skits. Apparently they didn't land very well. And some occasional really basic pranks, like putting salt in someone's coffee. Harmless stuff, initially.
But the key thing, the foundational detail here, is that none of it took off.
Right.
These early attempts just fizzled. They barely got any views, stuck in that massive ocean of online content.
And that failure, that lack of traction, it seems like it became this festering wound for him, a real point of internal friction. The source material lays out his routine really clearly, and it shows this almost pathological intensity. Every single night, after finishing his shift at a local gas station, pretty grueling work, he'd come home and just dive straight into the digital world, hours filming, hours editing, and then, crucially, hours just scrolling.
Yeah, and
Just consuming content.
Exactly. Watching others, people he probably saw as, no more talented than him, getting the viral success he craved, and seeing their success constantly, contrasted with his own failure. Well, it started to warp his whole perspective. The source points to this critical psychological shift. Aaron developed this really strong, unshakable belief that he was actually owed attention.
Owed it, like it was his right.
Yes. He genuinely believed he was being cheated by the algorithm. This wasn't just like wanting fame, which lots of people want. It became this deep, almost pathological need for followers. A desperate craving for validation that went way beyond normal ambition.
So it wasn't just aspiration, it was this ingrained sense of entitlement. Like the internet owed him millions of views.
Precisely. And the details from his therapist's journal, which came out after his arrest, they offer this really specific and chilling diagnosis. Algorithmic obsession with delusional entitlement. Let's unpack that a bit. It means Aaron didn't just hope he'd be famous. He had this distorted belief that it was his destiny, his right. He saw it almost as a moral failing of the system if his videos didn't blow up. If he wasn't famous, it couldn't be his fault. It had to be the algorithm or the platform or just the world refusing to see his genius.
Wow, that foundational delusion, you can see how that would underpin everything else.
Absolutely. It's critical to understanding everything that followed. It's this insidious kind of obsession, very different from just ambition. And this entitlement, it was fueled by the very way social media works, right? Where visibility often feels like the main currency. It created this breeding ground for a really dangerous mindset. He felt the whole system was rigged against him. And that feeling just grew into this quiet, simmering rage. It's terrifying, really. It's like an extreme amplification of that little pang of disappointment anyone might feel if their post doesn't get enough likes. Aaron took that to a completely pathological level.
And that simmering rage, that insatiable need for views, it led him down a really dark path, specifically into what the source calls his scare prank era. This wasn't just a small change in content, it was like his whole ethical compass just went haywire, almost overnight.
It started maybe slightly less aggressively compared to what came later. The source mentions silly gags in grocery stores, maybe bumping into a display to set off an alarm or swapping product labels, minor stuff, aiming for small reactions.
Say, annoying, but not. Terrifying.
Right. But as his desperation for engagement grew, he moved it to city streets. He started seeking bigger, more visceral reactions, more aggressive reactions. And then came the pivotal incident, the real turning point. He put on a clown mask, a really menacing one apparently, and deliberately chased an old man through a parking lot late at night. The man was terrified, obviously. He stumbled, fell, and actually fractured his wrists.
Oh my God.
And here's the really chilling detail, the absolute lack of empathy. Aaron didn't stop. He didn't help the man. He didn't even turn the camera off. He kept filming. His focus was entirely on capturing that raw fear for his content.
Just kept filming.
Kept filming. And the immediate aftermath tragically just confirmed his new twisted approach. That video, the one showing an elderly man getting hurt, scared,
Right.
got 78,000 views. For Aaron, that wasn't just a number. It was his biggest number yet.
Wow, 70,000 views for that.
Exactly. And this single event, this awful incident, it acted as this warped, perverse validation for his escalating aggression. He drew this critical, deeply distorted conclusion from it. It was proof. Pain cells. And this wasn't just an observation he made. It taps into something darker about online engagement, doesn't it? Our brains are kind of wired to notice novelty, threat, things that break the pattern. On social media, where everyone's fighting for attention, sometimes the fastest way to get noticed is through shock, controversy, even harm.
That's a really unsettling thought, that the platform itself might incentivize that kind of behavior, even unintentionally.
Well, Aaron, in his pathological state, he certainly took it that way. He amplified that perverse incentive that's subtly woven into the fabric of many platforms. He saw the numbers, and those numbers screamed validation, regardless of the human cost involved.
It's truly disturbing how one viral moment, especially one based on causing harm, could just completely rewire someone's moral compass like that, twisting their whole perception of what's acceptable, what's valuable.
Exactly. And this pain cells idea became his guiding principle from then on. It led to this rapid, aggressive escalation in his content. He started screaming at people in drive-through lines over tiny things. He'd fake massive mental breakdowns in quiet places like bookstores just to provoke a scene. He even staged violent fights in restaurants, all with the camera rolling, all chasing those clicks.
And what about the audience? What were people saying in the comments?
That's what's really illuminating and also deeply disturbing. There were definitely laughs and tags, the kind of engagement metrics he craved, people egging him on. But there were also crucial, desperate warnings. People were explicitly telling him things like, you're going to mess with the wrong person someday and you need serious help, bro.
So people are seeing the danger.
Absolutely. But Aaron, completely consumed by his delusion and fixated only on the numbers, just disregarded them, ignored them completely. He was so focused on the metrics, on the perceived success of his shocking videos, that he was deaf to any criticism, blind to the moral alarm bells. This was really the moment his content tipped over from just misguided or obnoxious into truly harmful territory, all because he tragically misinterpreted engagement as absolute validation. Any negative comments, he just rationalized them away, saw them as jealousy or people just not getting his genius. It just reinforced his delusion.
And it was during this period, after he'd fully embraced this pain cells thing, that Naomi Walls unknowingly crossed his path. She was 19, a college freshman, studying theater. The sources describe her as having this quiet confidence, a sort of calm self-assurance.
And crucially, tragically, Naomi was not a content creator. Not at all. She didn't even have a public TikTok profile. Her online presence was minimal, private. She was just a regular student living her life, completely unaware of the monster Aaron Reyes was becoming online.
How did he even encounter her?
It happened during one of his increasingly aggressive public pranks near her college campus. He was doing this crude skit, pretending to trip and spill a milkshake on strangers in a busy area, hoping for, big dramatic reactions. Naomi just happened to walk past in the background, barely in the frame. She gave, according to the source, a tiny side-eye glance, maybe mild annoyance, maybe just noticing the commotion, and then she just kept walking.
She didn't react the way he wanted.
Exactly. She didn't scream, didn't gasp, wasn't obviously humiliated or angry. She just carried on, utterly unfazed by his manufactured chaos.
Such a small thing. A glance.
A tiny, fleeting moment. But that 3-second clip, buried in the background of his video, became this devastating catalyst for Aaron's already fractured mind. The clip itself barely featured her, maybe just her shoulder and head as she walked by. But the comments, the audience Aaron craved, they noticed her. People started writing things like, she owned that shot, that girl didn't even flinch, what a queen, and yo, who was the girl with the bag, she's the real star.
So the attention shifted from his prank to her reaction, or lack thereof.
Precisely. And that incidental, unsolicited attention focused on Naomi was all it took for Aaron's mind to fracture even further. In his spiraling paranoid state, he saw Naomi as having deliberately stolen his spotlight.
Yeah.
It wasn't about her as a person. It was about her being a perceived rival, someone who had unknowingly taken the attention he believed was his. And this delusion quickly turned into this disturbing online behavior targeted at her.
How did that manifest? What did he start doing?
He started mocking her walk in his videos. He'd imitate her side-eye, twisting her calm demeanor into something to be ridiculed. He created these elaborate, completely false skits implying she was obsessed with him. He suggested she was stalking him or copying his ideas for clout, all of it completely fabricated with zero evidence.
Wow. So he didn't just see her as a rival, he completely flipped the script, painting her as the obsessed one.
Exactly. It's this chilling inversion of what we sometimes call parasocial triggers. Normally you hear about parasocial relationships where a fan feels connected to a star, right? A one-sided thing. But here, Aaron's own delusional need for attention got projected entirely onto Naomi. Her mere presence and the tiny bit of positive attention she got from his audience, it shattered his fragile ego. It ignited this pathological rivalry. It's like his internal wiring was just completely reversed and short-circuited. He couldn't handle someone else getting attention he felt he deserved, especially someone who wasn't even trying to be famous. She became a direct threat to his deluded self-image, and that warped perception turned into a dangerous, consuming obsession.
It's terrifying how someone can build such an intense negative narrative around a total stranger based on almost nothing. And Naomi, she must have sensed something was deeply wrong. What did she do?
She did what most rational people would do. She ignored it. She understood, don't feed the trolls. She didn't engage with his bizarre, aggressive online attacks. She systematically blocked him on every platform she knew of, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, trying to create that digital distance, hoping he'd just lose interest and go away.
But he didn't lose interest, did he?
No. Her disengagement, ironically, seemed to fuel his obsession even more. It confirmed his delusion that she was purposefully slighting him, trying to erase him. He became relentless. The sources detail how he immediately created fake accounts. Multiple sock puppet accounts using different usernames, sometimes variations of her name or his, just to get around her blocks.
So blocking him wasn't enough.
Not nearly enough. And then it spilled over into the physical world in a much more serious way. He started showing up at her college campus, often just lingering, for hours, being a constant, unsettling presence. Sometimes he'd try to accidentally bump into her in hallways of the library, trying to force an interaction. And he started openly filming her from across the quad, holding up his phone, camera pointed right at her, making his presence, his intent, chillingly clear. It was undeniable stalking at this point.
That's pure intimidation, openly filming her like that.
Absolutely. And this public, relentless stalking hit this chilling peak when he went live on TikTok, streaming from right near her dorm building. And he said ominously, "She thinks she's better than me, but watch, she'll know who I am soon." That statement, made publicly to his followers, it clearly foreshadowed violence. It laid bare the personal, vengeful nature of his delusion.
Did anyone report this? Did Naomi report it?
Yes. Her friends were terrified, understandably. They urged her to report it, and she did. She filed multiple reports with local authorities. She detailed the online harassment, the fake accounts, the physical stalking, the filming, that live stream threat. But this is where the case highlights this critical, deeply frustrating legal hurdle.
What happened?
Local authorities said they couldn't do much unless something concrete happened. That was the response. Their justification was that Aaron hadn't made any overt threats that met the specific legal standard for intervention in their jurisdiction at that time. And this just raises this incredibly important and agonizing question for all of us, doesn't it?
Yeah, where is that line? What counts as concrete enough for authorities to step in before it's too late?
It's a terrifying catch-22. The legal frameworks meant to protect people seem to be lagging dangerously behind the reality of digital obsession and harassment. Stalking laws, historically, focused on physical proximity, explicit threats like, "I'm going to harm you." Right? But the digital age blurred those lines. You have new forms of intimidation, relentless online harassment, filming without direct verbal threats that don't always fit neatly into old statutes.
So proving intent or reasonable fear becomes really difficult.
Exactly, especially when the perpetrator tries to hide behind content creation or free speech. And law enforcement, they're often overwhelmed, maybe lack specialized training or the legal tools to really tackle these complex digital cases effectively before they escalate. There's this huge legal and ethical debate about balancing liberties with protecting victims from these new forms of digital harm. And in Naomi's case, that legal limitation, that need for something concrete to happen first. Well, it proved tragically inadequate.
And tragically, something concrete did happen. Which brings us to the fatal climax, October 14th, 2024. The source material sets the scene with such haunting detail. It paints this vivid, heartbreaking picture of Naomi's last moments. She'd just finished a late rehearsal for a play. She was in a student production of Antigone. How terribly ironic. She left the theater around 9:30 p.m., walking alone back towards her dorm.
Yeah, the details are chilling. Street lamps buzzed overhead, casting long shadows. The air was cool and crisp. Her earbuds were in, just lost in her own world, walking home. And Aaron, he was already there, waiting. He was waiting behind a thick oak tree, hidden in the dim light. He was dressed in a dark black hoodie, chosen for concealment, and he had a GoPro strapped to his chest.
Silently recording.
Ready. He'd planned it all, down to the camera, meticulously. And his motivation, it's just so warped. In his mind, this wasn't just an attack. He genuinely believed this was going to be his breakthrough, the ultimate content that would finally make him famous. He saw it as a final confrontation that would go viral. He thought people would finally understand his genius, his pain, his rage. He expected vindication through violence.
It's incomprehensible.
What happened next? The source says it lasted less than 90 seconds. The speed, the brutality, it's shocking. He burst out from behind the tree, approached her quickly. Naomi, startled, pulled out one earbud. Her eyes widened. She recognized him instantly. She started backing away, terror dawning on her face. Aaron started yelling, his voice apparently hoarse with rage and delusion. "Why won't you talk to me? Why do you act like I don't exist? Don't you know who I am?"
Oh, God.
When she turned, presumably to run, he lunged. There was a brief, desperate struggle. Stifled screams. And then silence. The report notes 3 stab wounds, one to the back, one to the side, one to her chest. Brutal, final.
And immediately after, what did he do?
This is almost as chilling as the attack itself. He didn't run home to hide. He fled the scene, yes. But his first priority, his absolute first instinct, upload the footage. The unedited, raw, horrific video from the GoPro went live on a new TikTok account he'd created specifically for this moment. The account name, @TikTokKiller.
He titled it that. Unbelievable. How long was it online?
For 12 minutes before moderators caught it. A terrifyingly short amount of time, but long enough. In those 12 minutes, over 11,000 users had seen it. The reactions were, well, a grim reflection of the internet. Some thought it had to be fake, a prank, too horrific to be real. Others knew instantly it was real, their comments filled with horror. And disturbingly, some screen recorded it before it vanished, ensuring this horrific act would live on digitally even after TikTok took it down.
So the act itself was performed for the recording, for the upload.
Absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this was the absolute horrific culmination of his delusional need for virality.
Yeah.
He believed this act, this content, would be his validation, his path to fame, even at the cost of an innocent life. The fact he uploaded it immediately, that he was still filming when arrested, it just speaks volumes about the total grip of his algorithmic obsession.
How was he caught?
Police traced the TikTok killer account quickly. IP addresses, digital forensics. They arrested him just 6 hours later in an abandoned warehouse 5 miles from campus.
And now?
And he was incredibly still filming. His delusion was so profound, even facing arrest didn't break his focus on creating content.
And his statements in custody? Any remorse?
None reported. The source highlights his chilling lack of remorse, his complete detachment. He told officers, "She made me do it. You'll see, this is going to blow up. Watch the views." He genuinely saw himself as the victim, and this horrific act as his moment of triumph, his twisted path to fame.
It's just profoundly disturbing, that level of detachment. So the trial, he pled insanity.
He pled not guilty by reason of insanity, yes. Mental health professionals examined him, and their diagnosis presented at trial really illuminated his state. Narcissistic psychosis with delusional ideation fueled by parasocial triggers and media addiction. It's complex, obviously, but it clearly shows how deeply his mental state was tangled up with his online life and his warped perception of it.
Did the court accept the insanity plea?
No, ultimately they didn't. While the diagnosis shed light on his mind, the court didn't accept insanity as an excuse for premeditated stalking, harassment, and murder. They recognized the deliberate, calculated nature of his actions leading up to the murder, the stalking, creating the specific TikTok account, planning the confrontation. The legal view is that even if his perception was warped, his actions showed planning and intent. He was sentenced to life without parole.
And Naomi's family, what happened afterwards for them?
In the aftermath, seeking some form of accountability beyond his conviction, Naomi's family launched a landmark lawsuit against TikTok. Their arguments were very specific. The platform ignored multiple red flags, pointing to all the user reports about Aaron's escalating behavior. They argued TikTok failed to act on user reports effectively or quickly enough. And crucially, they argued the platform allowed Aaron to create sock puppet accounts to stalk her even after he was blocked, showing a systemic failure in their safety protocols to prevent determined harassers.
So this case really blows up into much bigger questions about platform responsibility, doesn't it? It goes way beyond just Aaron Reyes.
Absolutely. This case, and others like it, undeniably fueled renewed debates about platform accountability, content moderation, and the mental health crisis brewing under the surface of influencer culture. It forces really tough questions. What is a red flag online? How many reports does it take before a platform must intervene? What's the moral and legal duty of a company whose algorithms might amplify harmful content or allow persistent harassment through loopholes?
It's a massive challenge for these platforms, given the scale.
Immense. But the family's lawsuit highlights a potential failure, not just in reactive moderation, taking things down after harm occurs, but in proactive systems. Systems to prevent repeat offenses from people who are clearly determined to harass, using things like sock puppet accounts. And this isn't just theoretical talk. The source cites a really alarming CDC statistic. Between 2020 and 2025, the CDC reported a 22% rise in hospitalizations linked to digital psychosis.
Digital psychosis, what exactly is that?
It describes cases where individuals experience breaks from reality tied directly to their online lives, either consuming content or the stress of trying to perform on social media. Their reality gets so distorted by online interactions, by echo chambers, by constant comparison, by algorithms amplifying anxieties, that they genuinely believe things that aren't true. It can lead to paranoia, delusions of grandeur, or, in extreme cases like Aaron's, violence.
That 22% rise, that's a stark warning. This isn't just an isolated tragedy, then. It points to something systemic.
No, it's not isolated. The source is explicit. Aaron's case wasn't the first, and won't be the last, but it was a warning, clear and brutal. So what does this mean for us, for you listening? It highlights how, in this age, when social media becomes a lifeline and fame becomes oxygen, the line between audience and victim can vanish in an instant. Naomi Wells. She should be remembered for her art, her kindness, her life. Instead, she became the symbol of the devastating real-world cost of unchecked digital obsession, of a system that can, inadvertently or not, enable predators.
Her parents' words, they stick with you.
They really do. That statement read at the sentencing, Naomi never wanted to be famous. She just wanted to live her life. The internet made her a target. Now all we have is silence.
It just cuts right to the heart of it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It underscores the responsibility we all have, maybe, to look critically at these digital spaces we inhabit. That's silence. It's deafening. This deep dive, it wasn't just about recounting a crime. It really felt like holding up a mirror to some uncomfortable truths about our society, our digital world, our relationship with it all, in a world where every moment can be a post, every face is filtered, where a person can be reduced to a view count. You have to ask, really ask, how many more Aarons are out there nursing these delusions online? And how many more Naomis will be lost before we truly care enough to understand, to intervene, to stop it?
And this raises that important question for you, the listener, too. The core message from these sources seems starkly clear. Virality without empathy is violence waiting to happen. We're all participants in this. Every click, every scroll, every share contributes to the ecosystem. We collectively shape what gets amplified, what gets normalized. So maybe the takeaway is to look closely. Look closely at your own digital habits, the content you engage with, the environment you contribute to, even in small ways. And then choose. Choose what kind of world you want to be part of, both online and off.